Well, today we've come to the middle of the island, to Montuiri, and there's an archaeological museum here. So we're going to find out a little bit about some of the ancient history of Mallorca. We just paid our entrance and come in, and it's a really very well laid out museum with lots of exhibits which are from the local area. So we're just going to make our way down here. It's in an old mill. So it's a little bit up and down. And we've been given a book, which is in English, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's got an explanation of everything in English, and we've got here some TV presentations and videos of the excavations that have been done on this site. So we're entering from the more ancient of the times, which is the Talayotic period, and that's what we're going to be looking at when we go outside. And what I've read on the internet, the excavations have only really started fairly recently, in the last well, in our lifetimes. I think 1975 was mentioned. And so here are some of the discoveries that they've made, and in remarkably good condition. Clearly they were broken, they've been pieced together jigsaw-like. My students at school would appreciate the mortar there, with a ball for a pestle. And then some of more of the tools. There's another mortar here. Bones that have been used as tools. And then how the pots were made from the clay. So they take the stones and grind it all up. And make the pots. And then some of these stones here would be for grinding the corn, wheat. Really quite impressive pots that they've managed to rescue from this site. It's huge ones here. The building itself is really quite fascinating as well. There are lots of ups and downs. They do school trips here as well, so I'm guessing these are some of the exhibits that they get out to show to the children. Lots of bones here. There's one of the pictures I've seen on the internet, hanging an animal and gutting it. So as we move through the museum, we actually move through time. And it's always the hard things that remain from archaeological discovery. So the pots and the stones and some of the tools. Yeah, lots of stones there. Almost look as though they're stones for throwing, but they're actually grinding stones used in the mortar and pestles, and there seems to be quite a few of these mortar and pestles that they've found. And quite famous on the island for hunting. They used slingshots in Palma, just near to the cathedral. There is a statue of the sling thrower, and this is what they would have used. So they have a loop at one end and they would hold the other hand to put a stone in there, swing it round the head, and well, they must have been good shots. They would perhaps kill the animals that they were looking for. Some of these, the pictures are of things that are not found locally. So the bull there was found in Llucmajor, and the statue there in Sineu. But the actual pots are all from this site. Some more steps. Say it's all a little bit up and down here, but it's quite interesting, fascinating. And lots of human remains here, all the different bones. Here's an interesting little grindstone. It's got a hole here which they would put a piece of wood or something, a hole in the top where you drop your corn, and that's actually got a pivot hole down there where you could then put something to locate it, and then turn, you'd be grinding your flour. Some more of the local finds here. As time went on, they were moved on from using stone tools to metals, and so here we've got some remains of some of the metal tools mixed with some of the stone and bone tools that they were using. And some of them are actually quite ornate. Some decoration here, little bumps put onto this one. And different colouring, so they've somehow added colour to it. These are referred to as the black ones. A large museum, but it goes through quite interesting times from 900 BC. We've passed through the Talayotic period, through the Roman period, so the Romans, and then post-Roman era. And on this side, a little bit to do with the excavation. Which started in 1975, so this excavated site didn't actually exist as an archaeological site before 1975, and in 1975 they started excavating and found more and more things, and they're still digging away to find more. So we just come outside now and we'll have a look to see what we can see here. As you see, this is the windmill which is housing the Archaeological Museum, and it's right by the road, so we've got the roads all around. Behind, and we decided it was much easier to get in the car to actually get to the archaeological site itself, and it's been about a 10-minute drive, and through very windy lanes, very narrow lanes, but we've made it eventually, and this is now the entrance to the archaeological site. A little bit reminiscent of the one we went to in Arta during the summer.
Says it's very unstable, so be careful.
Very unstable. There's a picnic table there. We forgot to bring our picnic today. So we come out. And there's a board here with the explanation of what we're going to be having a look at, and a timeline from ancient times right up to 1400, so from 2500 BC the timeline goes on. But the time for this particular Talayotic is from 900 to 550 BC. So we really are looking at ancient times. So we'll have a look around, and you can see these huge stones that are here. How on earth did the people in those times manage to move such stones? I think we follow a path down through here. But you can see they are well constructed walls. And as I said in the video earlier on, the excavations here didn't actually start until 1975. People still working here now. In the centre of these rooms you can see there's a stone here. I've seen that in some of the other ones, and some of the illustrations that I've seen, that those stones are actually piled one on top of the other, and they form a centre for logs to be put across, and they would then provide the roof. You can see here's another. There's 3 stones there piled up. Some places there's even more. There would have been up to roof height. Interesting to see that the archaeologists are out actually working. Like the seat. Fascinating to see that. Think that this is like 2,500 years old. Clearly a lot of painstaking work to be done, all done by hand. You can't bring big machines in to do most of the work. It all has to be done very, very carefully. Always been fascinated by archaeology and how ancient people managed to do the things that they did. Here's a little path that walks through 2,500 years ago. Someone would have been walking along this path.
Careful.
This huge stone up here. How on earth would they lift that? And you can see some more stones over there. That central stone there be providing support for the roof. And this, what would this have been? I don't know. Some store. So when we were in the Archaeological Museum, things that we were seeing there, all of them were excavated from this site. Shapes here. Curious formations. All fascinating. Talayotic lacks a side entrance, which shows a large contrast between the total surface of the building and the inner chamber. This is owed to the significant architectural restructuring, which had to contend with serious setbacks in its execution. Structural errors are still visible in the northern facade, where ancient collapsed sections were partially repaired. To correct the problems of the stability of the building, the original doorway had to be sealed up, the interior lined up with the new wall, and finally create a spiral staircase built to the new wall in order to access the internal chamber by the roof. To scramble around to have a look at all these different things. In the beautiful countryside of central sort of Mallorca. So I was just asking me where they obtain their water from. I really don't know. I imagine they dug wells. There's an artist's impression here of how they lived within these stone buildings that we are walking around. With a surface area of 45 square metre, it is the largest and best preserved of the Talayotic houses, which you can see in front of us, accessible via a staircase linking the outside of the largest of these living quarters. It was well lit and suitable for processing hides and making bone points or pottery. A small opening in the dividing wall led to the kitchen, which still preserved a large stone slab used for food preparation, and where a wide selection of cups, bowls, cooking pots were discovered, originally used for consuming and preparing the daily stew. From the kitchen to the third room was accessed, and this room was quite dark and contained a few domestic finds, a perfect place for shelter and rest. internet is saying that only a small fraction of this has really been excavated so far, so there is lots more to do. Quite surprised actually to see it's actually a working dig. So these are the parts we've just been walking around, and this is where we are now. With T1, the big Talayotic right in front of us there. It did say that there'd been some damage and that stones had been taken out and reused, and that makes the archaeologist's job that little bit more difficult, because I'm not sure where the stones were originally, because they've been moved from one place to another. So it ends up being like a big puzzle they're trying to solve. The ground is very uneven. There's lots of loose stones, so it is difficult to walk, but very, very interesting if you like your history. Back more or less now to where we started. We've done the circumnavigation. Of course, over the hundreds, thousands of years, you've got the problems of the plants, the trees, and the other plants which will have been growing in the cracks and crannies and forcing things apart. This is actually the T1. This is the biggest of the Talayots, and the entrance is through a tunnel, which is where Anita's going. Are you going?
You want to go through?
I'm not sure I'll make it through there, but you can see the huge stones there. And inside there is that stone tower that's been made at the centre, and that would be supporting the beams, which would be supporting the roof, which went onto the top of it. So someone a little bit younger, a little bit nimbler, and can have a go at going through there, but I'll save that one. Well, fascinating for me, not quite so fascinating I don't think for Anita.
It was.
But really interesting bit of Mallorcan history, which you come on holiday to Palma or Magaluf or Piensa and you probably miss a lot of the history of Mallorca, but it's got a wonderful history. So thank you for watching, and give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Bye.